What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated here
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuit!
Everybody loves Hippo Toad.
Scary dog!
Benson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting Premier Podcast TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite show is Heels, Season 1, which aired on Starz. S-T-A-R-Z.
Starz. Extreme. I don't know.
August 15th, 2021. November 2021, it was renewed for a second season, which considering
was it?
how it ends,
Okay.
thank God.
Sorry, I've been trying to keep up with that. I'm really excited about it now.
It was brought to you by the good people at O'Malley Inc., LBI Entertainment, Lionsgate Television. They don't still make movies anymore. Paramount Television, they're still a thing. And Starz. It stars Stephen Amell as Jack Spade, formerly of Arrow fame, Alexandra Ludwig as Ace Spade, formerly of Vikings fame, and Allison of Luff, who you've seen many times, but she's in nothing you've ever heard of. Also, Chris Bauer from The Wire and The Deuce and lots of stuff that David Simon did. Joining me tonight is a professional wrestling fan extraordinaire and your dungeon master for you misbehaving folks. No, wait, not that kind of dungeon master.
Whoa!
he likes to shuffle your decks and play with your miniature.
What the frick, man?
Ronnie Adams, how do you do, sir?
I was doing pretty good. Now I'm a little flustered, sir.
I didn't say anything wrong. Nothing I said there was untrue.
It's true. I do shuffle decks and play with miniatures.
That's right, sir. Ronnie, you don't get to do a lot of wrestling talk with me.
I don't.
Like you're generally speaking, you're not on any of the live wrestling reviews that we do.
We need to change that one night at least.
Well, we're going to be doing some live streams of wrestling events, starting with the Royal Rumble. So maybe in 2022, we can live stream some stuff instead of reviewing it.
Yeah.
In any case, if you want to be on for one of those for 8 hours,
Dear God. Okay.
I definitely want to try to do it for WrestleMania. I'm going to be in a tent in my living room.
Okay. I thought you were going to WrestleMania.
No. But that's like a 2-night event, so there'll be lots of time for people to stream. Anyway, how long have you been a wrestling fan for?
I remember watching The Killer Bees with my grandpa.
Wow. Have you ever read their graphic novel?
I have not. That's like the legit tag team graphic novel?
Yeah, there's a company
that B. Brian Blair.
Yeah, there's a legitimate company that does graphic novels for pro wrestlers. They've done like Bruno Sammartino, Nikolai Volkov, and there's one for the Killer Bees that was like 3 or 4 issues long. Chris Bailey and I have been talking about doing that forever. Anyway, you were saying
I need to read that. Well, I remember watching Dusty and Rick and who I met Ric Flair.
Did he pull out his baby arm?
What? Yeah. He did.
Did he approach you in just his robe like that?
No. He was about. I thought he was about to pull out his baby arm because there was a
nice,
attractive female there. I paid for my autograph and my time and didn't get much because there was an attractive female and he just paid more attention to her. And I was like, well,
of course,
you're a dick, and I walked off.
Absolutely.
I didn't say that to him, but I was like, well, thanks for the time. And then I met Arn Anderson, who was like the sweetest human being in the world.
Yeah, I've heard Arn's pretty cool.
He's a really cool dude. But I remember watching Dusty and Rick and reading WWF magazines with my that my grandpa got. I remember it was Dusty in a chair with the powder that was blow away diet kind of stuff. I think it was Dusty in the chair. And so that was going back, however long ago that was, man. And so I've been a wrestling fan mainly then because my mom and my grandma told me not to.
Mm-hmm.
So what did I do? I went back there and watched it with my grandpa. And because they were like, you don't need to watch that. And I'm like, I'll do what I want. And went back there and watched it with my grandpa.
Okay.
who backed me up. And then from there, I kind of stopped watching it for a while because when he passed, I mean, there wasn't really, much in it for me at that point because it was just kind of a reminder,
Yeah.
And then I just found the love for it again around in high school and watched a lot of Raw, got a couple of pay-per-views, and then have been a fan since. And I haven't watched a lot of it lately because I got rid of cable.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know a lot what's going on. I would like to watch more AEW than I do, but I watch a lot of old stuff. And then just recently subscribed to Peacock, so I've been watching a lot of.
Yeah, let me tell the good people how the sausage is made here. So occasionally Ronnie will pipe into what we call our former network chat. It's no longer that anymore, but all the people on the network are still in it, so whatever. In any case, occasionally Ronnie will pipe into the chat, "Hey, I haven't watched wrestling in a dog's age. What's going on here? Or is this worth watching?" And of course, ask a silly question, get 1,000 silly answers.
Yeah. And but yeah, but mostly I watch like Smoky Mountain, all the old stuff. I watch a lot of Smoky Mountain. I watch I could watch that stuff over and over and over, and a lot of old WCW and ECW.
So it's pretty clear why you would want to watch this. Then I mean, this is Heels focuses on a regional territory independent professional wrestling organization in present day. So it's they wrestle in an old rail yard for a couple hundred people, and they are just keeping the lights on. Yeah. I think at one point in the show they were like, "I wish I could pay you guys." And they all have real jobs. They're either working in gas stations or as bouncers.
They're doing it for the passion, man.
Stephen Amell, who inherited the organization from his father. We'll talk a little bit about that. He actually sells riding lawnmowers, things of that nature.
Yeah.
So, so it's pretty clear why you and I would be interested in this. This is a drama where wrestling, it's about a lot of things. It's about relationships. It's about the relationships between the brother. It's about the trauma of losing a father to suicide. But wrestling is the core of it. Wrestling is the theme. Wrestling is the backdrop.
Absolutely.
And Stephen Amell, I think, wrestled Cody Rhodes. I want to say
Stephen Amell has wrestled Cody Rhodes, Christopher Daniels, and he also wrestled in WWE. He wrestled Dolph Ziggler.
Okay,
I believe he wrestled Dolph Ziggler.
So this is a guy who has at least spent some time training, and obviously has a respect for the business. And I think he's a producer on this. It was created by Michael Waldron. And
he's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah, he had to have some hand in the creation of this thing somewhere. This is clearly a passion project for him, something that I think he wanted to dig into and talk about. It's not as bleak as something like the Wrestler.
Yeah.
But it's also not over the top silly to the point where even people in the business were negative about it, like Young Rock.
Yes, or Ready to Rumble.
Yeah.
Or,
It doesn't make this out to be a circus. I think there are some there's some use of the carny language that I think is a little out of place in this show, but I think for the most part, they really, really tried hard to sound authentic and present the world of independent and regional professional wrestling as a real place that real people exist in with real problems, and pay it its respect. I think it's as honest a look as you can at the industry for a fictional television show.
I completely agree, because first and foremost, if you read anything or know anything about Stephen Amell, he is a fan. He's a professional wrestling fan. If you watch his AEW matches or anything like that, he does good in WWE, but if you watch his AEW match or anything like that, he actually has trained and does well. I mean, he can't throw a fake punch to save his life. No, a worked punch, I should say. He could throw a fake punch for the camera.
Well, sure,
but a worked punch.
He did 8 seasons of that in Arrow.
But a worked punch is a little different because you're really still making contact, but you don't want to knock the guy stupid.
Right.
So he's learned. I mean, like he was doing backflip drop kicks and dives off the top rope and all this other stuff. And he doesn't like do the flippy dippy stuff like Rey Mysterio or the Young Bucks or anything like that. He is a solid worker that can take it to the top, or he can just do some technical stuff as well. Now, granted, in the show, there, it's cuts and, wait, hold on, let's get this right, things like that. But it's still, the work rate is still there. You can tell he still trains. And so I love it, because the other thing is, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of young wrestling fans don't realize or don't know what a territory is.
Right.
And that's when I grew up, were territories, man. I live in Burlington, North Carolina. I live 30 minutes away from what was the wrestling mecca of the United States, Greensboro, North Carolina.
So you've been to the Greensboro Coliseum?
I have. If you
anybody like the house that Flair built, isn't it?
Exactly. Anybody that was anybody went to the Greensboro Coliseum. That was Times Square or Madison Square Garden. Right. That was Madison Square Garden. I said Times Square. For wrestling. I mean, Don Kernodle. I've seen the Kernodle family around here all the time. The Kernodle family owns everything around here, I feel like. Their name is on everything. Sergeant Slaughter lives here.
Really?
You know, yeah. So I've seen him multiple times, bought him a beer at a restaurant, things like that, just to say hi. And nice guy, especially when you're buying beer. But, this is the place. So when I moved here, I realized I was in a rich wrestling culture. And, there's a lot of indies around here. There's an arena, the Sportatorium is what it's called, the prestigious Gibsonville Sportatorium, that holds 150 people. Maybe. Maybe.
It's about the size of an elementary school cafeteria.
Just a hair smaller. Because when they do dives outside the ring, they literally lean over and go, "Can you move?" And then they do the dive. And
I beg your pardon. I'm gonna need you to slide this way.
Can you move over just a little? But I don't know why they sound like an old man. But it's when I saw this, I was like, man, this is really going like what I grew up with and what I love. I hate to say this, but I don't love WWE.
Yeah,
because it's too big. It's too flashy. It's production. It is a movie.
Yep.
This is wrestling. They don't get to say wrestling on WWE anymore. It's sports entertainment, or you're a superstar, not a wrestler. People are fined over this crap. This is getting back down to the nitty gritty, and I like it. And I'm a sucker for dramas on TV too. I've watched Riverdale and Friday Night Lights and all this other bull crap that, is just nothing but drama. And I'm a sucker for that. But this is actually not like that. This is really good.
Yeah, this was better than I didn't think it would be bad.
No,
I would have been surprised if it was
better than what you thought, though.
But it's a couple of hairs better than what I was anticipating. So let's get into it. As the rest of the cast goes like this: Mary McCormick plays Willie Day, Jack's business partner. Kelly Berglund is Crystal Tyler, a valet and love interest for Ace. Alan Maldonado is Rooster Robbins, who is the high-flying star who keeps seeking fame and whatnot and being denied. James Harrison is Apocalypse, a disillusioned journeyman wrestler. Roxton Garcia is Thomas Spade. He's Jack and Stacy's son. And the aforementioned Chris Bauer, who's the best character in this whole show, is Wild Bill Hancock, a former wrestler, star turned pro wrestling scout. So we'll get into it, but I do have to ask, the airplane scene, did you just have to turn it off and go for a walk? Because I know I'm laughing hysterically. I'm like, yes. I was waiting for him to pull out, to do the helicopter, but I guess you can only get away with so much on Starz. But I mean, like, his Johnson was not obstructed.
Not at all.
I was going to say, like, they really got away with pretty much full frontal male nudity. And, I'm watching that, and I was thinking to myself, like, Ronnie has to have just gotten up and walked into the woods to live deliberately for a little while.
I was sitting there watching it. I was like, there's no way. This is too over the top for them to actually show, there's his dick.
Yeah.
That was it. That was
And
it.
then
I was like, there it is. There
After
it is.
hearing, like, did you watch? And I don't want to get into a whole side tangent, so I really just looking for a yes or no here. But did you watch Dark Side of the Ring on the plane ride from hell?
Yes.
You can't even argue with it because
Nope.
you're like, oh, this, like, no one would really, oh, Ric Flair.
Oh, Ric Flair.
Oh, Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Just, as soon as you say, oh, Ric Flair, all arguments are done. Case
Done.
settled. Guilty. Sentenced. It's over.
If you're listening to this and you haven't watched Dark Side of the Ring, please do.
Yeah,
on that particular subject, and then watch this show.
Pat and I got into it. It's go back in the archives. We reviewed the whole season and talked at length about the plane ride from hell.
Of course you did. There's so much more to cover on that whole season, but you got hung up on the plane ride from hell.
Well, that next PW, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right, so all of these episodes, it's a short season of television. The average has been between 10 and 13. This is really short. It's almost a mini series. It's 8 episodes, or about an hour long, and all the episode names are named after Carney wrestling slang.
Yep.
So episode 1, kayfabe. Jack Spade, the owner of the Duffy Wrestling League in Duffy, Georgia, which, by the way, made my eyes roll, controls everything inside the wrestling ring, but outside the dome, he fights to balance his family, his real job competition from a bloody wrestling promotion, which I also rolled my eyes at. Plus, his little brother Ace, who is the new face of DWL, is interested in bigger organizations, causing former wrestler turned scout Wild Bill Hancock to show an interest. Jack's refusal to drop the DWL championship to Ace in their upcoming match, feeling that him retaining is a better storyline, causes further dissension between the brothers. Jack betrays Ace during the match by beating him within seconds, causing Ace to break down in tears as the fans shower the ring with trash. All right, I'll go to you first on this. What did you think of this first episode?
It had me hooked from the very first. And I can't explain it because the characters I love.
Mm-hmm.
What do we got here? Last Rider 216.
Yeah, it's Robert.
Oh, hey, Robert.
He says between the plane ride from hell and Mark's XPW stories, that took the lion's share of the runtime.
But that's okay. That was entertaining.
We talked about what we were interested in.
Exactly.
All right, so go ahead, Ronnie. Didn't mean to distract you.
Oh no, you're fine. I did it myself. But the characters, first of all, they caught me. You know what I mean? And the fact that they didn't give everything away. They didn't. Yeah. Pardon the phrase. I just don't know how else to put it. They didn't blow their wad all in the front. They just didn't say, okay, this is what happened. This is what they're going through. What's going on? And they did that slow burn reveal of every problem they were having with each other and everything else. And the fact that was that the first episode that he didn't drop the belt to him?
Yeah.
He made him tap out. Yeah.
So Jack is the dirty stinking heel, and he's the champion of the promotion. Yeah. Ace is the big time baby face. And what they allude to at the beginning of the season, starting with episode 1, is how much Jack, if Jack has any kind of talent, it's that he's a creative storyteller.
Absolutely.
And he has writer. Vision. Yeah. He has a vision for what things should be, and a lot of times, and I kind of think, and I don't want to.
He lets that vision step in front of what should actually happen.
But I think about the story Steve Austin told about Vince McMahon and him losing to Brock Lesnar on Raw in the King of the Ring, and it's like, Vince clearly had in mind a story that begins this way, and Steve, has never really revealed what the whole story was. Yeah. He just knew that it was going to begin that way and it was going to end later on with them having a more meaningful match. But in any case, Steve and Vince is a really good example of what they're getting at with Jack and Ace, where Jack has a vision for a long-term story that in the immediacy of what's going on, Ace doesn't see. Ace only sees that he's popular, people like him, he should have the belt, right? And kind of doesn't see the next
Ace
step.
Is a spoiled brat, it feels like.
He's very entitled.
Very entitled little brother. And so he can't see the forest for the trees. Right. And then sometimes I think Jack bites off more than he can chew. He dreams too big, but doesn't have the foundation built.
It's funny. I really did like the show a lot. There were a handful of times, though, where I kind of there were periods where I was watching this in my bedroom with my wife who was reading at the time, and I would kind of turn from the television and look at her and go, this is one of those shows where if people were just a hair smarter, there would be no story.
Yeah.
you know,
true.
like there are some dumb decisions made in this thing. And I mean, not
but they're human decisions.
It's not lock and key contrived for manufactured drama reasons. More on that Tuesday. This is more these are very flawed people who make some bad decisions. And for myself as an audience member, it's a little cringy. It's a little frustrating because like you like these people, like you want, like Jack's not a bad dude, but a big part of what the show deals with is his inability to balance, as the synopsis says, the life work balance between his real job, his passion job, his thing that he inherited from his father, and his family. And Jack kind of drowns in all of it. And then here's what I wanted to say later on, and we'll talk about this, but later on when Ace is tempted to jump ship to the ECW,
I wouldn't call him the ECW.
I was gonna say
CZW, baby,
stand in for whatever the hardcore deathmatch promotion.
Yeah,
the stand in for that part of the world. You know what you get from Jack is this feeling that he has to save everybody from everything.
Right.
You know, if everybody else is dumb and makes terrible decisions, and Jack, who has been delivered from Jesus to help everybody else find the path of righteousness,
right?
And it's like you are a flawed individual too, and you will. And yes, you are your brother's keeper, but sometimes you just got to let people fall on their face. And Jack can't do that.
He has that vision of what he wants everything to be.
Yeah.
And he has inherited this from his father, and it has been meant so much to this community for so long. And he sees what it could be. And now that he has it, Triple H has taken the reins from Vince McMahon.
Yeah.
Because the only way that he can get it is when McMahon dies.
Right.
And that's what happened with Jack and his father. So he sees everything, and he wants to put the cart before the horse and start buying the cameras and buying the smoke and buying the lights and buying all this other stuff. And but first he needs to work on who he's got.
Right.
And he has this dream, and he does too big without working on the small first. And then you've got Big Fish in a Little Pond with Ace. Ace didn't wrestle until finally his brother brought him in, and he started being a star. So what has happened? He's a big fish in a little pond. He gets a big head on him. He thinks he needs the strap right now. He needs the belt right now. And so they butt heads, of course, because they're brothers.
Well, it's important to know that I think Jack was actually ready to give him the belt, but
until he messed up.
So earlier in the episode, Ace is going into a convenience store to buy some stuff, and he gets into it with the clerk, who is a heavy woman, and he basically was like, "You're so fat, you might eat your dog."
Right.
It was something along those lines. Like he really goes off on her and makes this woman feel bad.
The way it is like he doesn't have any money because he doesn't have a job.
Oh, that's right. He tries to steal the gum.
He tries to steal the gum, and and she goes, "Hey, Ace, put it back. Every time you come in here, you try to steal something, and I catch you every time. So you need to put it back because he's making his buddy buy everything for him."
All right.
So he put it back. He was embarrassed, and then she took it a step further. I'm not saying it's her fault.
That's right. He
looks at him and says, "Your daddy would be ashamed." Right.
And this is like a trigger thing throughout the entire series. It's like they're all willing to be reasonable adults until somebody brings up their father. We'll talk about why. I don't want to talk about it just yet. And that sets him off, and that's when he calls her a big fat ass who would eat her dog.
Yeah. He told a story about how you think my daddy was so nice to everybody. Well, he made fun of you and said you'd eat your dog.
Yeah.
So
this is going to rear its head later.
Yeah.
When Jack's wife, so it's important to talk about what happened in the match before we move on. So, I'm sorry. He cries in the ring. The thing with the Kleenex happens in the next episode. So
sometimes I'll throw wrestling terms out there like it worked or whatever. So like I said, a worked punch is a punch that doesn't hurt, that they know is coming. When I say that he put a shoot armbar on him, that means it's a real armbar. He really was trying to tear his arm off his shoulder.
Right.
And so we'll go from there because
Yeah, he kind of goes into business for himself, you know.
Mhm.
But and it's funny because it lended the point of that in terms of drama is he was trying to lend authenticity to that moment.
Yes,
Because he knew, and this and this is what we mean by he had the vision, because this is episode 1. You don't find this out until like episode 7 or 8, where he's like, I knew if I did this to you, you would react this way, and that's what we needed from you. You know, you don't need, it's like it's almost like a grooming process. Like you don't know what's happening to you until it's been happening for a while, and you're like, oh, okay. The other way to kind of think about it would be, you know, Miyagi getting Danielson to Daniel
paint
to
the fence and
right,
sand the
and
floor.
he doesn't realize he's doing muscle memory to learn blocking until he's doing it. Episode 2.
Well, one quick thing.
Sure.
When we look at the first episode, the name kayfabe is the term for keeping the story going even out in public.
Yeah.
So that is an important part of the wrestling business for Jack Spade. Mm-hmm. Even though Vince McMahon and everybody else has opened up and says, "Oh, wrestling is a big show," blah blah blah, it's still real to him. Damn it! Is like the old
it comes up a
video
lot during the show where people are like, "Well, isn't it fake?" You know. If that's the thing, this is somewhat of a love letter to wrestling, but it's a love letter that also recognizes it has its ugly parts.
Yes,
which I like. I would rather a warts-and-all authenticity than something like a Ready to Rumble, which makes it a pure fantasy, or The Wrestler, which makes it like, why would anyone go into this, or the other one, the documentary that drove the McMahons crazy, Beyond the Mat. By the end of it, like, why would anyone do this?
Well, there was a part where he's driving around in his truck or his SUV or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
and he's driving and he's looking straight ahead. And he's got that Jack Spade look on his face, that absolute monster heel bad guy look on his face. And there's 2 kids that are riding their bikes, and they stop, and you hear them go, "Oh my God, it's Jack Spade! Look, it's Jack Spade!" And then he just turns in his head and has that scowl, that mean look on his face. Look, run! And they just run away from him.
Right.
And
meanwhile, he has to sell lawnmowers to pay his mortgage.
Right. And he's smiling and laughing because that brings him so much joy.
Right.
That, that he's kept the kayfabe and the story alive for these kids. And I was like, oh my God, that's beautiful. That's the way wrestling used to be.
Without getting too distracted, that is why people go into the dramatic arts. And I'm going to include wrestling into the dramatic arts because people want to play. There's a joy in play. Yeah.
Why do you think I'm a dungeon master? Why do you think I play D&D?
Because you like to whip girls.
Oh my gosh.
Episode 2?
Episode 2. Let's move along.
Dusty finish. As the DWL wrestlers worry about the fallout from the previous promotion, Jack struggles with what direction to take the narrative in his league, causing interest from his competition, Charlie Gully from the Florida Wrestling Dystopia.
Right. The names in this are amazing.
Yeah. Some of the names in this are a little silly, but I guess you kind of beef it up for the audience, who I always talk about this, like a lot of the stuff that's out there that's about wrestling isn't for niche wrestling fans. It's for the general audience.
Yeah.
And so like if you're watching this with another person who doesn't watch wrestling, you really do have to like make it beefy and colorful and almost silly because like you have to get the attention of a general audience member.
Absolutely.
Or you're going to lose them. If this is too in the weeds, if this is too niche, you don't get that. You only get then that niche audience, and not everybody who's an indie niche wrestling fan is going to watch this anyway.
It's just like later on in the series, you go to they're having a party. It's just a constant party for Florida dystopian wrestling or whatever, wrestling dystopia. And like one guy's jumping off of a thing and through a table and all this other stuff. And I'm like, this is like all the frat parties in the world combined.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that doesn't really happen.
Right. You don't hear. I mean, granted, you hear the odd story of the Steiner brothers shoving markers up someone's ass, but it wasn't an everyday thing.
Yeah, exactly. And they made it out to be an everyday thing for this, for this particular group of people.
Meanwhile, Ace is out of control and wants to quit wrestling after the crying match in which he thinks this is an end to his career, and goes on a bender in town. After Jack fights along Ace in a bar, Ace agrees to return to DWL, but states he does not want to ever get booed by fans. So I loved the scene in the karaoke bar Because
Yes.
what made it funny to me was Ace is drunk and he's singing bad karaoke, and there's a guy in there who's got some size to him, bearded guy, and this is such a small town that everyone knows each other. So Ace is doing his thing, and the guy heckles him, and Ace is like, "I know a story about you, and I'm going to try to embarrass you," and it backfires because the guy just has an answer for everything Ace says, and Ace is not as quick-witted as he's trying to be.
Right.
So this guy completely pulls the rug out from under Ace, and it was so funny because like I've seen that very same scene done so badly in other places, to where the guy who Ace is trying to get the goat of takes the bait.
Yeah.
And they wrote it this way because the story they wanted to tell there is just how fractured Ace really is, and how small and everything else. And so this guy not taking the bait and being the better man until it got physical really cracked me up. I love that scene for that reason.
Yep. And I agree with that. That it was smart. It was a very smart play to do it that way because, like you said, I mean, like not everything's Roadhouse.
Yeah.
The bad guy doesn't always take the bait and swing first or whatever. And not every time, when you're drunk like that, you're not going to be the quick-wittest or the smartest. The quickest or the smartest with the comebacks or anything like that. So it was a realistic situation for me, and that's what I appreciated about it.
I forget. I think you start to see more of his relationship with his mom in this second episode. You also get to see him kind of seeing Crystal, who's his valet, as something to be.
See her. Sees a lot of her, if you know what I mean.
But he seems to regarding Crystal as an object and not as a person. That becomes very clear in this episode, that the world exists to serve Ace's needs, and Ace,
and she is an object to serve his needs.
Yeah, and Ace just takes and gives nothing back. This is where we get like the entitled thing, but like you see it, and over the course of the thing, you not only see it with his mother, but you start to see it with his father too, where there's a clear hierarchy to the brothers in the father's eyes. Ace is the favorite child, and Jack is the workhorse. And we'll talk about that as the series goes on, but you start to see all of that in this episode with Ace. This was a very Ace-centered episode. Episode 3, Cheap Heat. In an event to drum up more heat for DWL, Jack enlists the help of popular wrestling veteran Ricky Rabies, played by CM Punk.
In a great performance, by the way.
Yeah. By the way, did you ever read his? I know you're a big comic person. Until I drove you away from the comic podcasting.
You drive me away.
Did you ever read his Drax comic?
I didn't. I need to. I wanted to. I heard good things. Yeah.
Okay. It was good.
Yeah, I heard good things.
Okay. So CM Punk is great in this, regardless of how you feel about him personally.
Yeah.
And he's currently in AEW now. He did a great job with his acting role in this show.
He has come leaps and bounds from what I saw him in. He was in some kind of horror movie one time, and he did pretty good. It was like, man, you could tell you're a rookie actor on this, but he did really good in this. I think it was because of the element he was in.
Yeah.
His tattoos, man.
Okay.
Gone. Did you not notice that?
I wasn't paying that close attention.
I
was more taken in by his mullet.
Oh yeah, they covered up every one of his tattoos.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Oh.
He intends to set up Ace with a full house for his comeback in the main event with newcomer Bobby Pinn. Meanwhile, Rooster Rollins is questioning his worth in DWL with a championship belt, and so is Jack's wife, Stacy, who wants to get away from all the wrestling drama. After the DWL fans reject Ace's attempt to rehabilitate his character, he finally agrees to turn heel. Okay, so this is the bit where he tries to deliver the in-ring promo. It goes poorly, and Jack instructs somebody from the crowd to throw little bags of Kleenex.
Did they show him instructing them? They just did it. They just did it.
Yeah. It's implied because you see him giving the person the box. You don't yet know what's in the box.
Okay, yeah,
and
I knew that.
Later on,
you find out that he bought them.
Right, the Kleenex at him, and then after a time, you find out that he bought the Kleenex and he told her to give them out and all this other stuff. But it's the throwing of the Kleenex at him and the whole chant yelling "Crybaby" that finally sends Ace over the edge. because the belief is that Jack thinks that Ace, that, and again, this goes back to the interaction with the clerk, that Ace is such a jerky personality. He may have a heart of gold way deep down on the inside, but there's so much on top of that that's negative that
he's a money hill.
Yeah, it would be best to take advantage of his current of the way he's perceived by people in town now, and use that to try to make some money. I want to talk a little bit about Rooster, because Rooster's whole thing in this is, I'm a great athlete, I'm a great wrestler, I should have the belt. And it's funny because, like, if you're watching this as somebody who doesn't watch wrestling, you're like, I don't understand why the fake wrestler wants the fake belt. What is especially if there's no money involved, what is the point? And it's so, and we talk about this. There are wrestlers like the Ultimate Warrior and Goldberg who, like, this is a job.
Yeah.
This is a job that I come to do, and I get paid for, and Brock, and that's the end of it. And then there are people who know that wrestling is a work, but act like it's the Olympics. You have your Bret Harts, the
Bret
joke,
Hart.
It's still real to Bret Hart. And Rooster comes from that mold of Bret Hart guys where, what am I doing if I'm not working towards the belt? And the other wrestlers have said it too. If you're not here to be the champion, why are you doing this? But the implication is the championship is where the money is.
Yes, they pay you extra if you're holding that belt.
Well, but not only that, but you get opportunities with the belt. The opportunities to do media, opportunities to do things outside of wrestling.
And the other thing is, when they give you that belt, the fake wrestler gets the fake belt. But it's not just that. It means that your bosses trust you.
Yeah.
And, you're the face of their company, right?
You'll be a draw for the company and sell tickets.
Absolutely.
That's what that belt represents.
Yeah. And they trust you, and they put that faith in you.
Right. But there are guys that act like it's a real accomplishment. Like you earned, a boxing or UFC title. Well, you had to legitimately win a fight.
Right. And then there's guys like that. And then there's guys that just see it. They want to accomplish that they want to win that by being a good employee, and working towards that. I mean, legit. How about you put the belt on me and I beat everybody? Yep.
That is a classic Bob Holly line. How about you put the belt on me and I'll beat everybody? Yes, Bob.
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 How many belts did you get?
How many students did you beat up?
Yeah.
In any case, the impression I get from the Rooster character is he's one of these guys that's it's still real to him. This is I never hear him talk about, but I'm muddy, I will draw. It's always about, I'm the best athlete. It never really comes up. It kind of comes up once. Where he says to Jack, "What's my real name?" And Jack just blurts out all this information about Rooster that he knows, because he does pay attention, he does value Rooster. But he doesn't but your best, most flashiest, most exciting gymnastics athletic performer is not always your best draw.
Right.
So before we recorded tonight, sort of date this recording, I watched Master P and Amazing Red's promotions show tonight, House of Glory.
Wait,
let's just move on.
Okay.
And in the main event was Will Ospreay versus Amazing Red, and my wife watched the main event with me, and I said, "Oh," she's like, "Who's the tall British guy?" And I'm like, "That's Will Ospreay. He's the current hotness. He's the new Kenny Omega." And
I mean, he's good.
And here's the thing, though. Will Ospreay is known by niche wrestling fans as probably the best wrestler currently, currently out there. I think it's like him, and I think the belief at the very least, near as I can tell, is it's him and Kenny Omega kind of in a neck and neck race. Yeah. And depending on your preference, either one of them could be that at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I said to her, I was like, but does Will Ospreay, outside of an organization like this with seats maybe 500 people at best, is he really a draw? Is this a guy that sells out, Cowboy Stadium in Texas? I know it's not, it's AT&T Stadium in Texas, at a WrestleMania. Is this, is that the guy? Probably not. And that's the difference. Like, he might just be, and I don't know this about Will Ospreay. I'm just using him as an example. Will Ospreay might be the kind of guy that's like, I'm the best wrestler out there, and I should be in that spot. Certainly, that was CM Punk and Daniel Bryan's position when when it was their time. And there might have been a legitimate case for CM Punk at one point. There wasn't for Daniel Bryan. There was Daniel Bryan was not selling out any stadiums at any point in his career. I cried like a baby when he won at WrestleMania 30, but that doesn't mean he was selling it out on name alone.
Right, but he was over. He was really super over with the fans. So
other people believe differently. I'll just put it that way. Anyway,
it is too.
So anyway, but point being, the whole reason I went into that side tangent is there are guys that they're good hands. They put on good matches. You have to have a card full of guys that can do different things and be entertaining, but not all of them necessarily are individual draws by themselves. And that's kind of Rooster's story with this, is that he believes he is. He believes that because he's the best, that he'll be a draw. And even when he defects and goes to Florida Wrestling Dystopia, he's used as bait. Yeah, it's like, if we lure this guy in, he'll lure in the big fish. The value is still not seen with him.
Well, they dropped the belt on Rooster when they pulled him in, and then they were going to make him drop it the week after.
Mm-hmm. Right,
and so he had no value.
Right.
He was shock value for him.
It wasn't anything about his talent level.
Nope.
It was about the perception of him.
Absolutely.
Which is a big thing the series deals with. It's just a very weird thing, because like the casual person, I don't know how much of that they would pick up on. And they might get stuck on the idea of why does he care so much.
They lay it down pretty good, though.
Yeah,
I think they lay it down pretty good as far as they make it pretty obvious that like he doesn't know that he's losing the belt in a week, and he doesn't, and he's still walking on cloud nine. He's like, look at this championship belt. Look what I got. Look what you don't have. Look what you could have had. Blah 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 blah. And then what he does know is that Ace had a conversation, before, it said, "Oh, by the way, next week when you debut in your first match, you're getting the belt off him."
Right.
Like, whoa, kind of a deal. Like, well, where's he getting this big head at? Because they lied to him to get him in there. They flashed money and coke and women and everything else in front of him. Listen, that party was crazy. It was off the chain. They had everything. And so, it was just like, it's sad to see that, because legitimately on the other side of it, it's legitimately, it's good versus evil, the battle for these guys' souls. And it's Jack was the angel, and I can't remember his name from Dystopian Wrestling, as the devil, and they're fighting for the soul of Ace.
So one of the things that is starting to happen, the seeds have been planted, and at this point it's just a slow grow until it finally blossoms into drama and insanity, is how Jack isn't seeing his wife. The phrase that has been bandied about in common parlance these days is to be seen. I'm not being seen. I'm not being heard. I'm not being seen, because the opposite is I see you. And she doesn't feel seen by Jack. She feels like, she's an appendage, and she's learned, you try to be supportive of your husband who's burning the candle at both ends. He's trying to keep up, trying to do his job. He's trying to keep his father's dream alive. He's trying to manage some fairly unmanageable personalities. He's trying trying to stop his brother from, walking right off the cliff. Right. And so you feel for Jack, because, Jack's not a bad dude. He's overwhelmed, and he's having a hard time trying to figure out what the priorities are. Because for him, it's all important. It's all equally important. And, when that's a quick way to burn yourself out. But the wife, meanwhile, is like, is this all there is? Wrestling all there is? Is my husband are we ever going to be a partnership? Because it doesn't feel that way now. And the seeds of it are there in this episode, and it grows and grows and grows over the course of the next several.
This was episode 3. That wasn't the defining moment where she mowed the grass, was it?
No, I actually don't remember when that is.
Yeah. But she has that defining moment, that wake up moment of like, he ain't gonna do jack around here right now. So she gets up in the attic with a BB gun, kills the squirrels.
Yeah.
And then she goes downstairs, cracks a beer, goes out to the lawnmower, cranks it up, and starts mowing the lawn while drinking a beer. Doing all the things that he's supposed to do and hasn't done yet, because he's too busy trying to relive, to realize this dream of his. And so it's at that point. I mean, if you've ever been a part of a relationship, and it doesn't even matter if it's husband, wife, whatever, or if if you remember it from when you were a kid with your mom and dad, and they tell you to do something, or they ask you to do something multiple times, and then you get home from doing what you want to do, and it's already done, and you're like, crap, I'm going to pay for this one.
Yep, I have promised to empty the sink on many an occasion, and woke up and I didn't do it, but it's emptied, and I'm like, well, I'm going to hear about this later.
Yep, exactly.
just go in the corner now and beat myself because
just got that whip that you hit yourself in the back,
I look in the mirror and I ask myself what my name is. Cutting promos, speaking of which. Episode 4. After a house fire forces Jack and his family to move in with Carol and Ace. Carol is the mom. Jack's mom. The two brothers put their differences aside and their heads together to generate a DWL promo to further grow the league's fan base outside of Georgia. After exposing himself on an airplane, is the best, and then verbally attacking his bosses in a drunken rant posted online, Wild Bill is fired from his scouting job and has nowhere to go but back home to Duffy. Meanwhile, Crystal helps Bobby Pin find a new wrestling identity. Okay, this is where the show really picks up because the first three are a little on the slow side. Episode 4 is where you get a lot of Chris Bauer from the second season of The Wire, and he's also in The Deuce, like I said before, and he's so good in this. Like, this might be my favorite Chris Bauer performance, and that's coming from the guy who thinks The Wire is the best thing ever.
Right. Wild Bill is just every wrestling character you can think of rolled up into one and thrown on screen. Like, he is Hogan, Flair, Jake the Snake. Everybody else, and with that accent, I can't remember. He's Bob Orton, whatever his name is. I can't. Cowboy Bob Orton.
Yeah,
he's all of them rolled up into one, and he's larger than life, and he works for what we would consider WWE. So he comes from up north, to offer a job to Ace, and Jack blows that with the aforementioned armbar and making him lose within seconds. And he said, "Hey, there's more scouting, parts, kid. I got to go back." So Wild Bill kind of dumps Ace. He goes back, and then he gets drunk on an airplane, shows everybody his doolally, and while wearing a championship belt. A light-up championship belt. Okay,
so we need to talk about that because that's what sets him off.
Oh, that's what sets him off because it set me off too.
So he's in a boardroom. See, here's the thing. I saw the argument from both sides.
No, you're the guy that was okay with the spinner belt.
I was, because the object is to sell toys to children. I'm sorry, it's still real to you, Flair. But put your baby arm back in your pants and realize that some of this, not all of it, but some of this is a multimedia corporation designed to sell toys to children.
I get it. I do. I get it.
So there's a scene where he's at a board meeting
buddy
with the with the corporate heads of this wrestling company he's working for. He's scouting for. So it's essentially like a stand-in for the WWE. And they're doing a presentation of, hey, we're going to change the belt, the actual belt. And I absolutely think you brought up the spinner belt. I absolutely think this was a point to that moment.
Yes.
That I think fans have been hotly debating. You have, I'll take up for the fans who saw the validity of it. But there were the other ones that were like, this is desecration of something that's valuable to the participants and audience alike. This is a standard for which to achieve.
Yeah.
And it should not be made into a toy for children, except that it had already been and it will always be. Right. And so the point being, in this scene, they're like, we've done market research, which is always a great start to any line. We've done market research that says people sitting in the top tier third deck can't see the belt. They couldn't tell you what the belt looks like. And, so we're going to make the belt really pretty and big, and it's got to have big glittering lights on it. And it's going to look like a Vegas, light show.
Purple and pink and light up. And,
it's so good.
Flashing.
And like, in this way, people can see the belt. And then somebody makes the remark like, oh, good, that'll make a great toy for children.
Yep.
And so Wild Bill, of course, being one of these guys who's from the territories and, sees the value in, the authenticity of wrestling, sees that belt, and it's everything he's against. And because he has become wildly successful being a douchebag.
Yeah.
He acts like a douchebag, thinking it's gotten me this far. Why would things change?
And he's the other one who's gotten comfortable in his position and thinks they can't do anything without him.
Mm-hmm.
As far as scouting and all that.
Right.
This is my job. They're not going to get rid of me. I can do what I want. So what's he do? He pops a couple of Ambien or whatever. He drinks a lot of liquor, and then he lets his wang dang doodle hang below the belt. And
what he does is commit sexual assault.
Yep.
Yes, he does. You're not allowed to walk up and down a plane waving your thing at people.
Exactly. You get what you get after that, which is usually a jail sentence or your name on a special list.
Yeah, that's how the FBI gets a file of you.
Exactly. And you're not allowed to fly anymore after that.
But I'll tell you, I'm laughing because it's such an entertaining performance.
He's so good in this show.
If you watch him, I've seen him in a bunch of things. He has got a long storied history of television and film credits. But the things that I've seen him in were both David Simon projects. And again, I've seen him probably here, there, everywhere else. But in the two things he was in for David Simon, he was so serious. He's so, when he's Frank Sabatka from the second season of The Wire, he is overwhelmed with the need to hold on to this last piece of the American dream, to hold the docks together so that the working man can work. In The Deuce, he's just, he's like a tired construction worker who's working in the prostitution, the massage parlor, because he just doesn't want to do that anymore. And he's like, I would love an easier gig to make, way to make money. What if I just manage these whores?
Yeah.
And it's not a whole lot to his character. Yeah. Here, Chris Bauer, probably everyone here gives a really good performance. There's nobody here that's particularly unbelievable. But Chris Bauer, what I said before about talking about playing, he gets the opportunity to really amp up. And you're like, wow, you have based on his other performances that I've seen, you had no idea you could do that. Him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't if you were we need somebody that's kind of a Billy Graham, Ric Flair type. We need somebody what if Hogan got naked on a plane? Well, who's out there that we could do Hulk Hogan naked on a plane? If you said Frank Sabatka from the fucking Wire, I'd have been I don't think you heard me. I didn't say who could we get to be Bobby Heenan. Right. Hulk Hogan. But he does it so well. It's an amazing scene.
He plays that incredible douchebag, all right, when you first meet him, and just cold and callous of how he treats, and
he's such a wit. It's drama. He's written for him, but he delivers it like it's so natural.
Exactly. And then he has that moment where he's Ric Flair on the airplane. He's showing his meat and two veg to everybody. And
how many euphemisms can we come up with for penis?
I don't know. I keep take
a drink when Ronnie comes up with a new one.
I'm trying, baby. I'm trying. Yeah, I think my favorite has been doololly so far.
So that's been my favorite so far. Anyway, so yes, he pulls out his peas and carrots. Go on.
Yes, exactly. His twig and two berries.
This is now This is now becoming the penis song from Monty Python.
So he does the thing, and he either while that is just absolutely over the edge, crazy, make Ronnie go outside and rethink his life for a while for watching this. Kind of, you get to see the vulnerability later on as well.
Totally. So he over the course of the next few episodes, he's going to move in with his ex-girlfriend / valet Willie,
which is crazy.
And she's married and has a daughter of her own, and he is going to say something horrendous to her, and that's going to change the course of the following episodes after that. Yeah. When he finally gets around to apologizing to her, it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really is.
It's kind of, there's a lot of similarities between Wild Bill and Ace in that there's probably a good dude in there somewhere, but the sediment is so corrupted and dead and vile that it takes a while to dig through it all, and people just don't have the time or the patience, and so it's so funny because like he says to Willie later on in the series, I apologize for people who are like we're jumping around a lot, but there's a lot to talk about here. What he says to Willie, he was like, I am trying to find the words. This is not natural for me. This isn't easy either. I've never had to be the person that has to apologize, but I know I did wrong and I know it's the right thing to do. And I'm trying, but it's hard. And that's true for a lot of people, especially when you've gotten away with being inhumane to people for as long as this character did.
Right.
The other thing I wanted to really quick talk about, and actually have to go back to the previous episode, the bar scene where they have the fight in the parking lot that spills out of the bar into the parking lot. I just need to say this once, and I'm going to let this go. This isn't going to be a long diatribe of that doesn't work that way. Right. But for people who I know why they did it. So the whole thing is they're kind of losing this fight in the bar, and it spills out into the parking lot, and they're continuing to not do well. They're getting their ass beat, and Crystal throws herself into the fight, and she hurricanrana's one guy.
It was a beautiful move.
Now I know why how they're going to end the season. They need to slowly pepper in that Crystal is not just a pretty face and a nice body. She's an athlete, and she's able to do things that athletes do. Two things: one, not when you're 90 pounds and the guy's 200.
Right.
Two, if you attempt to do a hurricanrana in a street fight in a parking lot, you will have your head and back bashed into the concrete.
You're gonna get dumped on your head.
Yeah.
Yep.
Nobody will effectively execute a hurricanrana. That involves the other person doing a forward flip. Okay.
Yep. Otherwise, they're just going to land on your lower back.
Try it sometime. Try doing it to somebody. If you think I'm lying, try trying a hurricanrana on someone that isn't working with you. That doesn't necessarily have to retaliate, just stands there and resists. I remember when I used to wrestle in high school, one of the things they said when you're working with somebody and you're practicing your moves is give a little resistance so that there's some fight there, but don't go so stiff the guy can't do the move on you.
Right.
Try that when someone tries a hurricanrana on you. The person will just fall down is what'll happen.
Yeah, true. Yeah,
or like dangle from your neck like an albatross. She executes a flawless Rey Mysterio-esque hurricanrana on this guy, knocking him unconscious.
It was gorgeous.
And I mean, there was a part of me that was just like, "Odele," and I'm like, "Wait a minute,
hold up."
I almost noped out of the show, Ronnie. I'm not even joking. Like your thing.
I saw that, and
Chris Bauer's dick nearly drives you out of the show. I almost turned it off when I saw that. I'm like, nope, I'm done.
See, okay, so that is kind of a silly part, and I knew you would think that. I did not, however, think that you would nope out of the series almost because of it. But I mean, that with the baby's arm holding an apple. That
I would rather see a man's penis just jangling through an airplane and sending the straights into hysterics than some 90-pound girl execute a hurricanrana on a 6-foot-some-odd tall man.
And moving on.
One is believable. The other is pure fantasy. I'll let you guess which one's which. While you're guessing,
I have my answers, but you're not going to like them.
While you're guessing, let me talk to you about a service that might have helped them come up with a better way of displaying the fact that young Miss was an athlete worthy of appreciation by Jack and Ace. Do you know what that service is?
I'm thinking you need to tell me.
It's Grammarly.
Oh my gosh, I had it and I didn't realize it.
Yes. Grammarly's AI-powered products help people communicate more effectively. Grammarly helps you write mistake-free on Gmail, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and nearly anywhere else you write on the web. Grammarly corrects hundreds of grammar, punctuation, and spelling mistakes while also catching contextual errors, improving your vocabulary, and suggesting style improvements. To download Grammarly today, go to getgrammarly.com/W2M network. Again, that's getgrammarly.com/W2M network to download Grammarly for free. Episode 5. We are now into the back half of this. Swerve, brah. Swerve is the name of the episode. Swerve, brah.
A swerve is where you think it's going one way, but it's a misdirect and it goes the other.
Correct. You are confounded. There's a red herring afoot. Swerve,
bruh.
When chair members of the South Georgia State Fair show interest in featuring the DWL as this year's main attraction, it's on Jack to close the deal with an electric night of matches. However, Wild Bill, Ace, and Crystal, who is no longer a valet, have their own ideas at the expense of Bobby Pin's career. This was brutal. So the setup here is that so I want to say this has to be where Ace is really like losing his mind, and he starts sleeping with the bartender, and he's going to make the bartender his valet, which pushes Crystal out. And then Wild Bill gets in her head of like, you should be a wrestler, not a valet. Don't get pushed around in this industry. You'll never make it if you do. And so there's a whole thing where they're going to set up an angle where the reason why they're switching valets is because she was cheating on him with Bobby Pin. And Bobby Pin there's two ways to look at Bobby Pin: ultimate friend zone guy, or knight in shining armor, white knight.
I want to think I want to think that he's not quite in the friend zone, that she's going to see his worth
eventually, but during this season, not so much.
Yeah, not so much.
There's a lot of this episode where he's trying to change his gimmick to something more enticing for the audience, and he's hanging out with Crystal, and Crystal's trying to help him develop something and pick outfits or whatever. A friendship forms, and that's why Ace turns on her, because he gets jealous.
Right.
She has no intention of sleeping with Bobby at this juncture, but that makes no never mind for Ace. Ace is
right.
Like, there's a man. He's next to you. I'm threatened because I'm a child in a large man's body. And so this isn't going to happen. So anyway, he's supposed to deliver a thing in the ring to sort of solidify his gimmick as a heel, and this is supposed to put Bobby over as the face. And because Wild Bill got in Crystal's ear, she takes the mic from Ace and she delivers a promo of her own, basically cutting the legs out from under him. Yes. He then reacts by putting Bobby Pin in a legit submission and breaking his leg.
Ugh.
Which was gross, by the way.
Yeah, the bone popped out.
Yeah. Ugh.
I was like, at this point, like, this is such a small promotion. They're just going to put the gun to his head and shoot him like a horse. There's no way he's coming back from this.
I'll tell you, my only issue with this is I've been watching professional wrestling since I'm like 7 and I'm 45. And I've only seen one injury in the ring that involved a bone popping out. One in 2 promotions in over 30 years of watching this. I've seen it once. It was Sid jumping off the top rope. Yeah. Who got all legged. They do it twice in 5 episodes.
I remember watching that, and then I'm watching that pay-per-view live and be like, what happened? They cut away. Mm-hmm. And then next night, Tony Schiavone on Nitro said, "We're serious. This is really gross. If you're, like he legit said, if you are weak of stomach, turn it off or go out of the room now. If you have young ones, send them out, send them to their room." And we're like, man, it can't be that bad. And
you see it,
and then his shin, his tibia and fibula, broke in half, and his foot actually does this inside the boot.
Right.
And we're all like sick to our stomachs, and our friend walks in after they show it like 3 times, and then they show it 4 more times in slow motion.
Right.
And then our friend walks in and say, "Oh, mister, what happened? We're up." And I was like, "Good news, Sid has a new knee, but the bad news is in the middle of his shin under his old one." And he was like, "What?" And so that was the only thing I ever really saw. That, and I saw a few neck injuries.
Yeah,
I saw the Viano 4 or 3 get dumped on his head by Canyon and Raven, and then I actually saw Rick Steiner deliver that bulldog to it was Buff Bagwell, and so I saw both of those. And I saw the Owen Hart incident live on TV, but you didn't see what actually happened.
Let's not talk about.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Owen was not an injury. That was
not an injury. That was a death. Yeah.
So an accident gone wrong. But the point being, like,
you don't see a lot of that stuff.
No, and like the thing, so to do it twice in an 8-episode series, I was like, this is a bit much. I mean, like he doesn't pop Ace's arm out or anything like that, but when he, it starts with, the very first episode, he's got him in that armbar maneuver, and you can see like the pressure on Ace's shoulder, and everything.
You can hear it,
right? So like I say, it feels like in the writing they were kind of going to the same well a little too much. But anyway,
it was almost like a slap in Jack's face that he did that to Bobby Pin, because Bobby Pin was Jack's new guy. That's his new boy. That's his new face.
Yep.
He's like, okay, I'm going to do the same thing you did to me.
A tantrum.
Well, it's like, okay, you did this to me, I'm going to do it back to you.
Right.
That's a tantrum. He grabs it and he's like, it's not about Bobby.
Yeah.
It's about Crystal. It's about Jack. Right. It's about how he feels. Jack, you did this to me. Guess what?
Snap. All of that was projected onto Bobby. And Bobby Pin. Schmuck.
Yeah.
Who's in the wrong place at the wrong time. So it ends
such a lovable character.
Yeah, he's a good dude. He's the actor playing him plays all shucks really well.
He does.
So Chris Bauer as Wild Bill jumps in the ring and delivers a promo, and he's so Terry Funk about the whole thing. He was like, this was like half Terry Funk, half Donald Trump. He was like, I'm tired. I'm tired of these two entitled brats ruining the state of professional wrestling, and I am here to make wrestling great again. And like,
that's brilliant. Terry Funk and Donald Trump mixed.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was so good. It's a really fun promo. But at the end of it, and I was totally thinking about like ECW when he did this. He was like, you and me in a ladder match, in a 3-way ladder match for the WDL title. And I'm like, okay, Paulie.
Yeah.
Settle down, Terry Funk.
Terry Funk and it was Terry Funk and
Terry Funk, Stevie Ray, and
Sandman.
Yeah,
and poor I'm losing everybody's names now because I'm getting too excited.
And then eventually it was him and Raven.
Right, but Tommy Dreamer was sitting there. Please don't talk to me right now. I'm watching Terry Funk in this 3-way hard way dance. 3-way hard way. What the?
Let's move on.
Yeah.
So the whole thing with Wild Bill in that sequence is he's lost everything.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And this is his way of grabbing the reins and getting it back.
Right. And the thing of it is that it's successful. He wins the crowd back. The crowd is now forgotten about what happened to poor Bobby Pin. And he is trying to show he has lost the faith of everybody around him. Nobody sees the value in Wild Bill. And he's trying to show that he has value. And he succeeds in that moment, but nobody is yet convinced. I've said this to people throughout my years of therapy. For every year that you've hurt somebody, expect like 5 years of having to earn back that person's trust. So if you've hurt people for 10 years, you're in for a long stretch.
Exactly. Well, I mean, and the thing about it is, it's brilliant because he wins the crowd, and he puts out this wonderful idea for this 3-way ladder match that they've not seen another ladder match since Wild Bill used to wrestle King Spade. Their dad. They haven't seen a ladder match in Duffy, DWL for that long. Right. He said, "Hey, guess what? I'm going to wrestle both you boys in a ladder match that me and your daddy used to do all the time." And then you look at it and you're like, "Man!" I sat there and looked at it. And I was like, he as a character, Jack Spade really has nowhere to go,
right?
Because he threw that out there, gave him a brilliant idea, and if he poo-poos that idea, the crowd turns against him.
Well, the other thing is that they have this opportunity to play the state fair.
Yeah.
Which is basically like the big for South Georgia.
Phenomenal draw.
I think they go from like whatever their rail yard held was. I think they said it was like 500 people, something along those lines. It was a small number of people.
Yeah, it was
playing like a 10,000, a 10,000 seat arena.
And it's
and the whole motivation behind Jack is to try to just grow this thing into something that can be a little bit more than regional.
He wants to make it fill that 10,000 seat arena every week.
He wants to make it profitable.
Yeah,
You know,
and he wants to pay his boys. He wants
Right.
to, he wants to earn money for his family.
So
he wants to see his dad's dream realized.
That's something that him and Stacey talked about. Like, you brought up the smoke machines before. That whole conversation is about Jack feeling like we have to pour money into this thing in order to make money.
Right.
And Stacey going, at some point, there's no more money left to throw into this. And you have to realize what you're not doing is you're not investing, you're burning the money.
Right.
You know, and therein lies the conflict between Adrian and Rocky. I mean, Stacey and Jack.
You did it, dang it. I knew you were
did.
going to do it.
Let's move on to episode 6, House Show. Everyone in town is getting ready for GWL's premiere at the South Georgia State Fair, especially Jack, who's running around prepping and promoting to sell 10,000 tickets. However, not all goes well on a podcast with former wrestler Dick Valentine, played by who, Ronnie?
Mick Mother freaking Foley.
Yeah. He did a good job on this, being himself, basically.
Yeah, he did.
Who has too many personal questions about his father, Tom King, Spade's death. Meanwhile, GoDaddy Ace makes a heartfelt speech at Big Jim's baby's baptism, making him... Did I say GoDaddy? I meant GodDaddy. Jesus Christ.
You did say GoDaddy. I was like, made him a website, huh?
Take 2. GodDaddy Ace makes a heartfelt speech at Big Jim baby's baptism, making him question his character of the people he's been hurting, like Crystal and Bobby Pin, who has broken his leg and can't wrestle thanks to him. Also, Rooster meets with Gully to discuss a contract in the FWD. So here's the deal. In a flashback sequence, it is shown that after a run, their father takes a gun and blows his head off, on the front porch of the house. And the first person who finds his body is Ace.
Yeah.
Ace is pretty traumatized by the experience. I'll talk about this now because I don't quite remember. They go back to it a few times over the course of the next 2 or 3 episodes. The effect on Carol, who is Ace and Jack's mother, who is clearly a believer, a righteous woman, and obviously sees suicide as a mortal sin, reacts with anger and resentment. She never quite goes into deep depth with how his death affected her, only in that this is the thing a sinner does, a selfish sinner, and so I will not feel sorry for him, and I will, thump the Bible in explaining why this is a bad thing, and this is what happens with her and the grandson at one point.
And that's just her coping mechanism, even though it is wrong. That's her coping mechanism of if you can't be here, I'm going to be pissed at you about it.
Right. I think that's one of the things that I wish. Sometimes I find myself saying a lot of times I wish some of these seasons of television were shorter. This could have used 2 more episodes. I could have used a little bit more Carol.
Yeah,
because Carol and Stacey have some conversations that point to, but don't all the way deal with what is it like to be married to a wrestler. Right. And it's not just like the time away from home kind of conversations that you hear people have talked about in documentaries. It's more along the lines of what it means to support them when things are not going well.
Right.
What it means to have this thing completely eclipse your entire life. I needed to hear Carol talk about her resenting her husband for taking her on this journey, and then while she was the one, this wasn't her dream, but she supported him, and then he takes himself out of the game, and how that was and how unfair that is to her.
Yeah,
it's implied in the drama and the narrative, but it's not really spoken out loud, which was a little frustrating for me. And I guess for some people, they were like, "No, I got it's kind of like the argument that Alexis and I got into about Eternals, where she's like she wanted some of the stuff just said outright." And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, the hint of it was fine. We really didn't need it in bright flashing lights on screen. Like some things can just be subtext.
Yeah, I get that. Yes, but at what point? I mean, I really want to see. What is her name? You just
Carol?
said it, Carol.
Yeah.
I wanted to say Carol, but it didn't sound right.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see her have that Sally Field, Still Magnolias moment.
Yeah,
where she's Malin, and her daughter has died, and nothing's okay, and she just has that breakdown.
Right.
Because at this point, as a character, I look at her and I say, "You need that breakdown."
I was gonna say, and his death can't have been that long ago.
Yeah, and you need that come to Jesus moment where you're
Mhm.
like, I am not okay.
Right.
And whether it comes by crying, talk to somebody,
Mhm.
punching a tree, something, you need to have that moment.
Right.
And she doesn't get that moment, and that's leaves me wanting for her character.
She has a great line, and it's an innocuous line, but it's still a great line in the grocery store where Stacy's like, I have a coupon for cheaper chicken, and she was like, this is the chicken that I buy. I've been doing it this way, and when something works, I keep it.
Right.
The subtext there is, I am struggling to maintain control of my out of control life.
Exactly.
And I'm certainly not going to invite you and your chaos into it.
Right.
And it's a great exchange, a little exchange of dialogue. Like I said, sometimes I yearn for more drama, more spoken drama than what's presented. But there's certainly an argument to be made, like I was saying before, for subtext is fun. You get it. You get what's going on with Carol. Let's move on.
Right. Yeah.
But the other thing is, Stacy's relationship to Carol is kind of a ghost of Christmas future. Like, if shit don't change, she's going to turn into Carol, and that's not what she wants.
Very true. Yes.
And so that's a lot of that relationship. There's a point where Stacy says to Jack about, like, maybe I should work. She was like, they get into an argument about like going to Machu Picchu, and it's like, it's not really about going to Peru. It's about, it's about needing something in her life besides being an appendage to Jack.
Right.
She talks about, it was fine when I was just raising a small child, but that child is now in school and isn't wholly dependent on me.
Yeah.
So what am I? Am I just your shadow, or am I a real person? This leads eventually to her being granted the opportunity to sing the national anthem at a rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
And not that Jack is in any way jealous of her or whatever else.
No, he was super excited as a husband.
But it represented an opportunity for her to break from Jack and feeling like she was
just his.
Yeah. There's a word for it that we use where people enmeshed. She has been enmeshed in Jack in this crazy life, and finally she this is an opportunity to break that enmeshment and be her own person. Anyway, your thoughts on this episode?
It was opening doors, I guess you could say, and this, I'll be honest, this was the episode I started worrying that they weren't going to renew it, because it's breaking down. Are they going to be okay as a couple? We don't know. What's going on with Ace? What's going on with this and that?
Did she moved out by this point? Did she leave?
I think this was the episode. House? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so you don't know whether they're going to be okay.
Right.
And he is and Jack's at wit's end because he's lost his wife and his son. He doesn't know how the state fair is going to go. He's got this crackhead in Florida who's running a promotion that's gunning for him.
Right.
Who not only did that, but like a couple episodes before, actually flew a helicopter, flew in his own helicopter to the DWL arena, and used wallpaper paste to put all these posters up of dystopian wrestling all over their building. And and they even said, it's like, dang, these posters are on cardstock.
Right.
Who uses cardstock for posters? And like, this is nice,
Right.
So it's like he's got all this stuff and it's coming down on him. Is he going to make it? Is he going to go crazy? Is he going to go crazy, or is he going to act like his dad? This is one of those things where, like, man, this is really, this is really building up to a crescendo that I want to see, and I want to see continue. So I love this episode, so far. I'm a mark for this. I'm a fan of this entire season, but this one was really good.
We have to talk about Crystal only because of how the show ends. So at this point, after the whole episode with Bobby Tan, she is pretty much exiled from.
Yeah,
she is exiled from there, and she's basically told by Willie and Jack, in short order. You knew what you were doing when you did it. You did it anyway.
You went into business for yourself. Yeah.
And you are not an essential part of this organization. So if you can't, you have demonstrated that we cannot trust you. And we are not in a place where taking a gamble on you is really worth the time or the effort.
Right.
And so after so she tries out as a wrestler, and Jack's like, no, I don't want her messing up. I don't want her presence to mess with Ace's tenuous mental health. Even though her and Ace resolved their differences at the baptism.
They did, but did they?
I would have. Well, at that point, Ace is starting having it has come to Jesus moment, and he's trying to make amends with everybody.
True.
So him and Bobby make amends. Her and Crystal make amends. But Jack is like, no, you piece of trash.
Yeah.
you had one job,
right?
Look pretty and shut up, and you couldn't do that. And it's she has a great exchange with Chris Bauer where he rolls up on her. This is where he's pitching the idea of being Bunny Bombshell. And her first words out of her mouth were, "You made me turn on Ace," or whatever. And he was like, "I forgot how poor people, don't like to take responsibility for their own actions."
Yeah.
I was laying in the bed watching, and I almost fell out of the bed laughing at that. There's some sharp fucking writing in this show, man. There is definitely a perspective about Southerners.
Absolutely.
There is a guy in the writing room going, I have thoughts about people in the South. Gonna put them in the show.
We'll put them in the show and see how that works.
Yeah. How did you feel about that, by the way? Like that was a pretty stiff shot.
But look, consider the source.
Okay.
It was a stiff shot. It was, but to drive things home, you're going to take those cheap shots.
Yeah.
So you consider the source, you consider why they said it, and you go from there.
Did you personally have a, he's harsh, but he's right moment?
Don't want to admit it, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're in a safe space, Ronnie. Please share with the group.
Well, Mark makes me read comics that I don't want to read.
For more on that, check out our review of Snacklepuss.
Oh, wow.
All right.
That noise is completely involuntary, by the way.
Episode 7, The Big Bad Fish Man. With only 2 weeks left to the main event of the South Georgia State Fair, Jack is doing all that he can to keep his remaining wrestlers healthy and his family happy. In order to get more bodies in the DWL, he holds an open tryout. Yeah, that's what we were just talking about with Crystal. He's not trying to get her valet status and become a real wrestler. Gully sets a trap to poach Ace by vandalizing the dome. That's what you were just talking about. Causing him to go to Gully's mansion in Jacksonville and defend the Spade name. Stacy suspects that Jack played a role in Ace unexpectedly turning heel. After hearing about Ace's decision, Jack pays the FDW a little bit. Yeah, basically, he jumps the rail, gets in the ring, and punks Gully right in the face.
That scene was my favorite in the entire freaking season, just because, I mean, I've seen the ECW invasion, which they already knew was coming, but I've also seen the CZW and the XPW and all these people. They just show up. And, like this crap happened.
The XPW one where big, bad, burly, steroid-ridden wrestlers beat up ring crew guys.
Yes. Yeah.
That one. Okay.
Ridiculous.
Just want to make sure I knew which XPW invasion we were referring to.
Yeah. Yeah. The guys were scumbags. Yes. I mean, there's no two ways about it. But the thing about it, like, that scene though, when he jumps the rail and gets in the ring, and everybody knew who it was. Right. That's why they didn't stop it.
Did you yell at your TV, but what side is he on?
Yeah. Yes. Oh God, what's he doing here? Jack Spade. And then when he speared him, he's like, oh God, he killed him. Call off the match. Slobber knocker. I love JR. But no, and then okay, it all boils down to the beginning of this episode starts off with Jack and his dad.
Yeah.
And they're having a fight over the DWL, basically. And he wants Ace to wrestle. He said, no, Ace has got a chance to get out of here. That you don't, so you're with me. That's basically what it boiled down to.
Poor Jack. Jack had ambitions too.
Right, but not according to his dad.
There's a whole other scene where Jack and Ace are having fun and they're kind of just horsing around.
Oh yeah.
You know, and Jack clearly had some talent in baseball and maybe had some dreams to play baseball. And his father's like, no,
get over here, lock it up.
Right.
Made him lock up.
But Ace was protected.
Yeah.
You know, and imagine how that makes somebody feel. And, you know,
leave that boy alone.
Days.
Yeah, he's got potential. And it's like, well, he's got potential. What am I? You know, you don't have any potential. So he takes his grown son who has a family of his own, makes him lock it up on the side of the road, you know, do the wrestling lockup, and they start fighting. Then he knocks him down, and pardon my language, he looks at him and points at him and says, "Don't come for my shit, boy."
I was gonna say there is a whole volume of stuff to get into when it comes to sons trying to live up to their father's expectations and failing miserably because fathers move the goalpost.
Right, and this was prime example of a father moving the goalpost on his son.
Yeah,
and not just moving
maliciously.
Yes, but he built a whole new one and then cut this one down in front of him.
Yeah,
as he was kicking the ball over. Nope. That's not where it is, son.
This is where no matter how you might feel about Jack up to this point, you can't help. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how other people felt. I know
feel sorry for him.
I really felt bad for Jack.
Yeah,
like almost
absolutely.
anything he did. Like I don't ever think he's like even the Kleenex thing. Like I didn't think made Jack a bad guy. I think like Stacy's kind of Adrian moment with him over the stupid Kleenex. I was like, wow, are we making a mountain out of a fucking molehill here?
It's more about the lies that he tells.
Yeah, I want to come back to that because their conversation in the driveway of a friend's home is really important. But you know, this whole bit where like up to this point, Jack's just trying to like hold the strings together of his life, and his wife makes him out to be like this horrible human being.
Yeah,
and I just don't see it. And then you see the relationship between Jack and his father, and it's like, I can't help but feel bad for this guy. This guy, he can't catch a break.
Right.
You know, like he is the ultimate sympathetic character in this tale. And I don't know if that was the writer's intention or not. Like, I feel like the writers want you to kind of see the fault in Jack. And it's like, sure, aren't we all, you know, laden with faults, but not to the point, not to what you're doing to this guy. I mean,
right.
He's not quite Job, but you know.
Yep.
Like there's come a point where I feel like the writers just dumped on this character unnecessarily.
Absolutely. But then he kind of, in my eyes, he redeemed it, but he took that one crazy step forward to becoming his father.
Yeah.
When he jumped that rail, he tackled Fish to the ground and beat the living daylights out of him.
Gully, by the way, is his name.
Gully. I said Fish. I meant Gully.
Yeah.
Guppy, Fish, Gully.
He refers to himself at one point as the big bad fish man because he's like
that's what I was thinking.
He's like the stand-in for the CEO of like you know whatever Bass, whatever the name of the chain is.
So that because he sports outdoor sports stores, but he beats the crap out of Gully, stands up and delivers the same line with the same conviction that his dad did.
Yeah.
Don't come for my boy. Mm-hmm. And then immediately made eye contact with Ace, who looked amazed, impressed, and scared all in one. And I am really proud of that actor for portraying that.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, it was amazing. Such a cool scene. And even Rooster was like, "Ooh, what is this?" Mm-hmm. And then he's like, "All right, we got to go."
Right.
And then ran out of the ring.
That we knew the Dukes of Hazzard theme at that point.
Yeah.
These them Spade boys.
or the Benny Hill theme.
Yeah, either one would have worked. So the conversation that Jack has with his wife, I can't remember if it's this episode or the next one, but let's just talk about it now.
Okay.
You alluded to before, she talks to Jack about dishonesty for whatever its ultimate purpose is still a bad way to deal with a relationship. It does not provide the strongest base for a relationship with anybody. Mm-hmm. And and she's taking up for Ace. She's like, you did these things to Ace, you manipulated Ace, and that's where Jack loses his shit on her.
Yeah.
And he was like, let's talk about Ace for a second. And he tells her about what happened with the clerk. And then he tells her something else that he did wrong. And it's so funny because she's a great actress. Her reaction just deadpan. She's like, well, I can see why you did that then.
Yeah,
You know?
right. It's like, okay, so
You could see the face turn into eggs and bacon at that point.
even when you have to admit that he's right,
Mm-hmm.
you don't want. You just deliver it.
And that's
with
when
that.
Jax talks about his vision. He was just like, look, the guy's an asshole around town. Everybody knows it. It's kind of hard to sell him as the hero.
Right.
So we went with, and to look at the turn that's been made now.
Right.
People want to see him succeed. So, like you see where Jack is a really, really smart guy, and and the frustration of people of not being able to keep people with him for the ride, people doubting him.
Right.
It's an up the down staircase thing. We talked about it before. There's Mick Foley asks Jack about his father's suicide, at which point Jack runs out of the room. So we had touched on it, and then we never went back to it. So I just want to make sure we said it.
Yeah.
Anything else about this episode? I mean, we can talk a little bit about Gully. Gully. It's almost the entire hour is Gully trying to tempt Luke Skywalker to the dark side.
I mean, he literally comes in. It says, what are you here to do? He's like, I'm here to kick your butt. And he's like, well, before that, why don't you drink my beer?
Right.
Smoke my weed.
Yeah, he basically says, "Have you heard about our Lord and Savior, goth chicks and fishnets?"
Right, and then you got the hot girl on your arm already.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, like I said, drink my beer, smoke my weed, and then we'll talk about it.
Right.
So let me get you high and drunk, and then I'll explain my evil plan to you.
Right, and then you'll absolutely be in the right state of mind to hear what I have to say.
And then he woke up the next morning with said hot girl.
Mm-hmm.
Naked laying on his chest, and he's like, oh, what happened? I don't know, smart guy. What did happen? You signed your life away, kind of a deal.
Yeah. It's a good episode.
It is.
The guy playing Gully could have been so much more over the top, but it's actually kind of a grounded performance, for his eccentric personality.
He doesn't go too far with it.
Yeah.
He goes just far enough for you to go, oh, I hate this guy, but I can see where he's coming from.
I was wildly amused they were using impact footage.
Dude, the whole time I'm sitting there going, oh my God, it's Abyss. Oh my God, it's that, and I'm like, this is so cool. But I guess I don't know how they got it. I guess they're paying people.
The guy in the demolition bondage outfit. The guy in the demolition bondage outfit, was that Altar Boy Luke from XPW?
Oh, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it looked like him. All right, last episode.
Now you got me curious about that. I got to look that up.
Last episode, and then we'll call it a night here. Double turn. It's time for GWL's main event at the fair. However, there's more on the line than the championship belt. Jack's marriage is in jeopardy after Stacy finds out he plotted Ace's Kleenex incident and fears Jack's heel character is true to life. Gully, she has a great line here. She's like, you've turned into a heel. I married a face, and that's who I want to be with.
Yeah.
Gully wants payback and plans to sabotage the championship ladder match unless the Spade brothers beat him to it. Crystal is back in the DWL by becoming Bill's valet, Bunny Bombshell, but it's not for long because she has to prove herself as a real wrestler. When Gully and his people turn the crowd against Ace and Jack, and they begin trading blows for real, Jack tells her to claim the belt for herself. Conflict still brewing between the Spade brothers. Ace walks away, seemingly becoming comfortable in his role as a heel. So, yeah, basically what happens here is they're having a wrestling match while Bill shits his pants, which is hilarious.
I don't do much poop humor at all.
No.
No, I think it's lowbrow to me, and it's gross, and I don't get into it.
Did you say low brown?
Wait
a minute now. Hang on.
There we go.
Thank you.
But this made me laugh a lot, mainly because what all did he took something beforehand?
He took all kinds of mad opiates.
Yeah, he took a lot of stuff, and he even drank before it.
Right,
and then he takes that bump, and just my muff. Dustin, Big Johnny, let's take it home. My muffler fell out. That's the greatest professional wrestling story ever.
And Chris Bauer has this really, really funny delivery because he shits his pants and he's laying on his back. He was just like something along the lines of, I cannot get up. I cannot face this crowd in the condition that I am, and so I must lay here and die.
Yeah.
I died laughing. I'm telling you, man, this show works okay without Chris Bauer, but it's not nearly as much fun.
He's good. He's so good in it. And then you got Gully coming out of nowhere.
Yeah.
To try to ruin the show. And then you get Wild Bill. He's like, well, it's either embarrass myself in front of them or let him ruin the show. Gets up, shows the poop to everybody and the big brown stain on the mat, and just delivers a beautiful clothesline to Gully.
Yeah, he does. It's important to talk about the setup here. So so in the previous episode, Rooster talks about the way to get to the Spade brothers is to, it's not through violence or anything else. It's you got to get the people to turn on Ace. Ace is attention starved and needs validation and approval. He lives for it. He's never had it. And so if you can get the crowd, this is supposed to be Ace's moment. He's supposed to win the belt, right?
Right.
And so he's supposed to, turn back to being a face here, and win back the crowd's love and attention. And Rooster says, but if you take that from him, he will crumble and the whole thing will turn into a mess, which is exactly what happens. They throw the Kleenex into the ring yet again. And Jack, Jack has been trying to tell Ace a few times after being beseeched by his wife to do so, tell him the truth. And he keeps trying, and life keeps getting in the way, and he keeps putting it off. And finally, Ace, they're throwing the tissues, and Ace looks at Jack as they're on top of the ladder for the final spot, and he's like, "Did you do this?" And he was like, "Not this time."
Right.
At which point, Ace goes to pieces and begins to beat the shit out of Jack. And to the point where the crowd has turned on these two guys. Like, they came there to see a family-friendly. This is what I mean. Like, yet another example of, boy, if people were just a hair smarter and a little more self-composed, there wouldn't be a show here. So everything they've worked so hard for, when they're so close to Shangri-La, they're so close to Nirvana, and because Ace can't keep his shit together for more than 5 minutes at a time, it all goes to pot.
Right.
And I half expected them, the State Fair people would be like, never again.
Yeah.
And we never allowed wrestling back for the next 10 years. But
Cobra Kai situation.
Yeah, exactly. So Ace, Ace beats up Jack, and I can't remember what all is the reason she got in there, but she's inspired to get in there, and she ends up working with Ace for a little bit. Then she works with Jack, and they're both dead, and she climbs the ladder and she gets the belt. On the one hand, it's a little hokey.
Come on.
It's a little hokey. It would be like if Sonny in the middle of WrestleMania 12 won the belt, between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
Well, here's the deal. I'm
not saying I didn't like it. I'm just saying
Jack is hurt at this point.
Mm-hmm.
He's like legit hurt. And
neither one of them can get the belt at this point. They'll lose the crowd if they do.
Right. And then she gets in the ring, and I can't, because Wild Bill's down, he looks at her and says,
"This is full of shit."
Well, yeah, he's down. He got poop coming out of his singlet, and he looks at her and says, "This is your moment." And she's like, "Well, you have shat yourself, sir," and gets in the ring. And and then that's when Ace looks, they look at each other like, "Well, this is her chance."
Yeah.
And he says,
there are no better options.
No,
is really the reality of it is they have blown this match.
And but the crowd's going to go wild for this.
Yes. And look, when I say it's like Sonny, she's a 90-pound girl, and it stretches credulity, and it's hokey, and it's very much of the current.
But that's why they let her do moves. The suplex, the Hurricane Rana. She proved herself in that moment. In the narrative, because of what happens with this character, it is an earned moment. I'm not taking that away. And it's not like I did not watch that and go, "God damn you, Ronnie, with this horse shit." That's not my reaction. Oh, no.
My reaction was
that's a visceral response.
My reaction was, this is a little hokey, but I'll allow it because it's earned. Everything that set that up wasn't contrived. It's all things that, you could absolutely believe a 60-year-old man on opiate shit his pants and does not want to climb a ladder with poop in his pants.
Right.
We've all been there, right? You can absolutely
Sure.
believe that Ace, having, lost his composure yet again, goes crazy on Jack, and they've created a situation where neither one of them can win this match now. They will lose the crowd. Everything they've worked so hard for will go to pot. And so with no better options, this girl climbs it. My problem with it is only that, one, again, 90-pound girl. Two, it's very much of the current climate in terms of television. Oh, look, yet again, the girl got over on the two guys. It's a minor quip. It's a minor quibble.
I didn't even take it like that. I mean,
I could not help it.
I get it. I now that you pointed out, I get it. It was just like Crystal's one of my favorite characters on the entire thing, just because
She's a decent character. She's a decent person.
Yeah, it's her. I mean, like, it's not my favorite, but it's Jack Spade is my favorite character, of course.
He's great.
I mean, he's great. He's a great character, and I want to see that character development in him. And then Bobby Penn is my other favorite character,
right?
Because he's awesome, and I that aw shucks man stuff is great because that's kind of like me. And I think she's great because of the character development that you're seeing in her. Yeah. Finally being bold enough and believing in herself enough to get in the ring and saying, okay, let's do this. Can you lift me? We're going to find out.
If we aren't either promoting a feminist, good, better, and different agenda in a project, or giving all the women, or not promoting necessarily a feminist agenda, but at least giving all the women agency over men, I probably accept it for what it was, which is a well-told story with the right character doing the right thing in the end and having a happy ending.
Sure.
And you don't get a quibble from me. My problem is this is one of 100 million shows on television currently where this kind of thing is happening. And so it's like, is that where we are, writer's room across Hollywood? We can't figure out any other way to do things, but in the end, the women must prevail. Like, all right.
I can see that. I just saw it as an underdog character that got her time in the light.
There was another way to do that. There's another way to do that to where you don't have to give it to her if you think hard enough and you write a different story. They wrote that story purposefully that had to have been in the back of someone's mind.
Quit yucking my yum.
Sorry, yucking your yum.
Yeah.
Can we stop talking about penises? Thank you. This is a family show.
Was not talking
overall
about my dingle.
I'll give you the last word here. I love this show. This is better than it had any right to be. This, like Starz is like, if you think about all the different premium cable outlets, Starz is like what, 10?
I like Starz, but I get it.
I think I've told people I think also confuse Starz with Epics because they think it's the same one. People like, you're like, oh, I'm watching this show here. So what channel is it on? Starz. What the fuck is a Starz? So
that's all I do. Oh.
So I wish it was on a more known outlet so more people could see this. It's a great show. It is definitely worth the time, and I was happy to talk about it tonight. Your thoughts, sir?
Wrestling fan or not, you're gonna. I think you're gonna like it just because of the storyline, the characters, the development in it, and just the drama in it. I think people will like it no matter what. Yeah. It is currently it's in my top 5, maybe 3 different shows.
I was shocked Pat didn't want to talk about this or even wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
I really expected him to be the one, not you, to be the one to be like, why aren't we talking about heels? But he apparently had no interest in this, which is really shocking.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But it's probably my top 3 right now of shows that I don't miss. That right now, like, it was killing me that they were releasing it weekly.
Mm-hmm.
Give me the entire season now.
Yeah, well, I binge watch everything, so I knocked this out in about 2 days. But it was an easy watch.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at my phone the whole time.
Right, keeps you interested. Has a good story. The wrestlers that are there, are all great characters as well. They have a lot of good chemistry and amongst all the actors. It's just, it's one of those shows that like you're gonna have to take a walk if you're like me, or fast forward through Wild Bill's plane ride,
or enjoy every dangling minute of it.
You could do that as well if you're Mark. But it's one of those shows where like I was curious and interested because I knew it would at least be halfway decent because of Stephen Amell.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to be great.
Yeah.
So
it's one of the better shows I've watched this year. It's even better than Lock and Key season 2.
I've heard that colonoscopies are better than Lock and Key season 2.
I would not know, but I'm sure someday I'll find out. All right. With that said, we'll be back for season 2 when it finally comes out.
Yeah. Excited.
Yeah, we'll do season 2. The next time you see Ronnie on here will actually be Sunday night.
Yep.
We'll be doing a Damn You Hollywood double feature, as a matter of fact. Why not a triple feature? Because we all opted to drop the third movie. I'm gonna rope my son. Yeah, I gotta tell you real quick. So the whole reason like there was a switch was my son watched Clifford. And he's like, we should do a review of this. And I was like, you know what? I don't think Ronnie or Robert really want to watch Home Sweet Home Alone. Not to mention the fact that I think people, it's getting terrible reviews. I'm like, that's a great one to watch with my son, who I'm sure will think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And then on right around Thanksgiving, if not the Thanksgiving Day on HBO Max, is 8-Bit Christmas with what's his face, Doogie Howser, Patrick something or other. What's his name?
Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah. So I showed my son the trailer for that today. He was like, "We got to talk about all these." I'm like, "Perfect! Now I have a triple feature." And I'm like, "Okay." So that was a long rambling way to say that we are just going to review, and we'll do it as a Damn You Hollywood instead. Red Notice and Army of Thieves, and that's going to be Sunday night because the person I'm doing Tick Tick Boom with, everybody knows about Jamie, and Diana the musical is my friend's musical theater. Friend of the family, Elizabeth Faust, who was on the Feminist Perspective of Black Widow podcast. Well, she's coming back and she's going to talk about those 3 musicals with me. You've been spared, Ronnie. How about that? Yeah. You don't have to talk about everyone's talking about Jamie anymore. Anyway, she had to do. She wasn't able to do it Sunday night. She has to do it Monday, so that's why we switched.
Okay.
And then after that, I think is Why the Last Man is the next thing you'll be on.
Okay.
Great.
Why the Last Man?
Yeah, that'll be fun.
It will be. I enjoyed the comic book at least.
Okay, we'll talk.
Yeah.
In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe to W2M wherever you may find it. Ronnie, what kind of music did you play during your game tonight? First of all, what did you play tonight in 50 Words
I
or
played
Less?
Magic the Gathering tonight.
Okay. So what kind of music did you have in the background to help accentuate the Magic Gathering atmosphere?
Nerds complaining about each other's decks. And I said decks of cards, not the other word. That was the music. But actually, to be honest with you, the music that flows through the game store comes from the owner who sits behind the register, and she plays a lot of classic rock, which I appreciate.
Ah, very good. So if you are into the classic rock that you want to hear while you're excoriating your fellow Magic users and their stupid decks,
there you go.
You can click the link in our podcast in our description of this podcast at getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. We're offering a free 30-day trial of the Amazon Music Unlimited service. So it's getamazonmusic.com/W2M network. Like I said, we are on all the podcatchers, iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, anything you think of. We're also on YouTube, and we stream on Twitch. Just about any time that we're recording anything, it streams to Twitch. We also stream on Facebook. There's a Radulich and Broadcasting Facebook page and a W2M Facebook page, and the same thing with Twitter. As you can see on the thing, I'm at Mark Radulich on Twitter. If you would like to yell things at me, I will respond in kind, or just kindly. And then there's Sleepy Bear over here. So Sleepy Bear, what would you like to tell the people?
That I forgot to change my name from Sleepy Bear to something else.
That you're maybe a miscreant and misfeant, or
I am a misfit and a miscreant.
That's it.
Which happens to be the title of our Twitch channel and our group of people that we play. We have an actual play Dungeons and Dragons stream. that happens every other week. Tomorrow, we will be playing session 5.
Like Rise of the Frost Giant or some shit.
It is called Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden.
I was close.
You were not close at all, sir.
I said the word frost.
You did say the word frost. Where it is, we are playing. My group of adventurers are beyond the spine of the world in a place called Icewind Dale, and in a community called 10 Towns, where there are 10 towns, and you can go travel between all 10 of them. And it's a lot of fun. I've got some great players. We are exploring, having fun. And I tell you what, they tell a heck of a story. So if you like a good story and you like to hang out with people and watch things, we picked up some better audio equipment. So each player has their own microphone so you can hear them clearer now.
Cool.
And it's really cool. I got microphones for like $7. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. So on Misfits and Miscreants Twitch, we have like I said, a bi-weekly, I guess that's how you say it. Every other week we have a game. And then I'm also working on, which will be coming soon, some Friday Night Magic content, another game that's going to be starting up in the near future. We will have some other TTRPGs, tabletop role-playing games, such as Monster of the Week, Kids on Bikes, Call of Cthulhu. There's a whole bunch of stuff that came out from that was we saw samples of on Free RPG Day, like Star Trek, Dune, Power Rangers, Transformers, G.I. Joe, all kinds of tabletop role-playing games that I will be experimenting with and trying to get some people to play at least one-shots with me, just to show that there are other ways to tell these stories. But my main love is Dungeons and Dragons, and I will be playing that. Cool. Tomorrow also, if you're watching this live right now, but Saturday the 13th, I will be going with some of my players in my D&D game. We will be going to the North Carolina Renaissance Festival, and I will be doing a little bit of live streaming from there. So it will be a lot of fun. So we've got a lot of cool crap coming up. So just if you want to hop over to Misfits and Miscreants, twitch.tv/Misfits and Miscreants, give us a follow and hang out with us, because I'll be doing some like cool giveaways and stuff like that soon as well. Other than that, we got, it's a lot of fun. And if there's nothing going on, I usually see my big old stupid head playing video games on there.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on a TV party tonight for Heel Season 1. I'm Mark Radulich. That's Ronnie Adams. Be well, be safe, and behave.